As always, it is so good to have you all in the house. And this week, I am making no bones about it. I am starting with literally the hottest piece of legal news that has broken since this past Monday. She's back. Yes, I am not kidding you. Casey Anthony is back. In fact, she has gone on so far, not only as has with her return, she has resurfaced and calling herself a legal advocate. But before we go on with her claim as a legal advocate, let's start with her past first. Casey, back in 2008, was a mom to a little 2-year old by the name of Kaylee. Sweet little thing. Kaylee went missing at a point. Nobody knew what had happened to her. Meanwhile, her mom, Casey, she's off partying, entering hot body contests, when, as her claim today, she should have been advocating to find her daughter, to bring her back home safe. It took Casey Anthony 31 days to report her daughter missing. It would be sometime later before Casey's mother, Cindy, would find Casey's car. And using a direct quote from Cindy, "There's something wrong. I found my daughter's car today, and there smells like there's been a dead body in the damn car." Quote end quote. Now I wonder why that is. Simple. The car the car was found in the same area where little Kaylee's body was found. Casey was put on trial for her daughter's murder. The evidence was, for lack of a better term, overwhelming. But somehow the jury found it that it was all circumstantial evidence, enough to acquit Casey Anthony on everything but lying to police. So she walked. She got away with it. It would be years before we would hear from Casey. The last time we heard from her before this, she was doing a doggone documentary. Some people call it a mockumentary, regarding her case, Kaylee, and who really is responsible for her death. Or should I say, who really isn't responsible? Now she resurfaces as a legal advocate. Now, those of you who are just joining in and would like to drop a few thoughts in the chat, I welcome it all. Not just in the chat, but in the community page, because I will link I will link this entire edition of Bethea'S Byte Reloaded there as well. I would love to hear from you just in regard to this first segment, because what I'm going to do right now is I am going to set up this video. This is, let's call it an exclusive here at Bethea'S Byte Reloaded. So much of an exclusive, I am going to drop in the copyright disclaimer, and we're gonna talk about this at the end, because I've got a lot to say, and I know you do too. But I've got a lot to say on this, and maybe, just maybe, I'll drop in a few bars from those all over social media that would like to come up with something or someone they would trust more than Casey Anthony as their legal advocate. So, without any further ado, I am going to turn this part of our program over to Court TV and Closing Arguments host, my main man 50 Grand, Vinny Politan, along with the judge who presided over Casey Anthony's case, the Honorable Belvin Perry Jr.
She was the most hated woman in America, accused of the murder of her daughter, Kaylee Marie Anthony. But she was found not guilty of murder by a jury back in 2011 in Orlando, Florida. Since then, she has appeared on a docuseries and also on some body cam video in a bar. But she's not had much direct contact with the public at large. And now, Casey Anthony, that's right, I said it, Casey Anthony is on TikTok and on Substack. She says she now wants to help others as a legal advocate. What does that mean? And what is the reaction online? Tonight, we take a closer look. I'm going to have to talk about it tonight, so get ready, folks. I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments, and it's a big story. She's gone viral with the whole thing. Now, for those of you who followed the trial and were watching me during the trial, at the time of the verdict, you know I was beyond shocked at the moment that the jury uttered those words, not guilty, to every charge and lesser included charge in the case, not holding this mother responsible for what happened to her daughter, who was left in the woods, duct tape, eaten by vermin and bugs. Not responsible at all. No criminal liability for what happened to her daughter. And it was stunning, it was shocking. And for me, it was on many different levels, because the defense had a theory, they had a story, they told that story. But before they told that story, in covering this case and build up to the trial and everything else, it seemed the defense was investigating three people initially. You know, they investigated her boyfriend, DJ Anthony, took a look at him, right? Because you're looking for suspects, you know, who could have done this, who could be responsible, who could we point the finger at trial, right? It's classic defense. You point somewhere else, away from your client. They looked at her boyfriend at the time, DJ Anthony. He did nothing wrong. Jesse Grund, who was her former fiance, someone who I don't think he thought, he thought maybe he was, you know, going to be in crosshairs at trial. It got kind of tense for a while. In the end, there's nothing on him because he did nothing wrong. And there's the man who found Kaylee Marie twice, as a matter of fact, Roy Kronk, the meter reader. Like he was some wrongdoer and all this. The guy was going around reading meters, and then when he sees something in the woods, he's calling police. And they went after him as well. Now, during the trial, they sort of went after him a little bit. Why? I have no idea. And then they really accused her father, George Anthony, accused really without evidence, accusing him of being some sort of sex offender with zero, and then they presented zero evidence at the trial. Talked about it in the opening statement, but zero evidence during the trial, and the evidence would have come from one place only. from the mouth of the accused, but she never testified. So for all those reasons, like we're pointing the finger here, we're pointing the finger there, pointing the finger here, pointing the finger there. I was like, well, they're just looking for something to stick. You know, something to stick that isn't her. And in the end, I guess it worked, right? Because she was found not guilty. But for me, I was still shocked because I knew the history. The jury didn't know as much as I knew, obviously. They just know what happened during the trial. But during the trial, you don't get all that information about the strategies and the approach of the defense. And it was clear that they were investigating people. And if it was the so-called accident all along, there was no need to investigate anything. There was zero reason to investigate. You knew what happened from the beginning. So why waste time, money, and effort in all of that? But they did, right? Which tells me, you know, it's kind of like that classic, what is the defense going to come up with? You know, we always use that term. And, you know, what are they going to come up with? Well, you know, I don't know. We wait till the trial, we find out what they come up with. But who has to come up with stuff? If you've got the truth and all along it was an accident, you don't need to come up with anything. But they did come up with something. And by the way, the whole drowning thing really, if that was in fact the truth, when they did find Kaylee Marie, they could have tested the bones. They could have tested the bones. There's a test that you can do to find out if someone had in fact died of drowning. It's a test that they often do when they find bodies in the water and they don't know exactly how they died. Sometimes they'll test the bones. I think it's like a bone marrow type of test. And from that evaluation, you can tell if the person drowned or not, because they'll be alive and there'll be certain impact on the bones. And that's like, if that's what happened and your life is on the line in a death penalty case, wouldn't you want to test those bones and figure out a way to prove, to demonstrate, even before being indicted? You can demonstrate, this is what happened, she drowned. Don't try me for murder. Don't try to put me on death row. This was an accident. She drowned, test the bones. But they didn't. Again, all this is why I was shocked, because there were so many other ways to approach all this. But now we move to the latest today, and she's going viral. Take a look. Casey Anthony's video on TikTok announcing her new role as a legal advocate.
I am a legal advocate. I am a researcher. I've been in the legal field since 2011. And in this capacity, I feel that it's necessary, if I'm going to continue to operate appropriately as a legal advocate, that I start to advocate for myself and also advocate for my daughter.
Hold it. Time out. Whoa. If you feel that it's necessary for you to operate this way as a legal advocate, the best thing to do would be to advocate for yourself and your daughter. Where was this attitude back then when your daughter was missing? Where was it back then? Oh, never mind. Oh, man, how soon do I forget? Your tattoo is enough evidence to back that up. For those of you who don't remember, she had an arm tattoo on her. It said Bella Vita, which translates to beautiful life. And apparently that's how she's living right now. But she wants to be somebody's legal advocate. And the best way for her to do that is to be an advocate for herself and her daughter. Yeah. And 50 cents will get me a cup of coffee at Starbucks, guys. But you be the judge.
I'm doing this both personally for me, but in professional capacity. My goal is to continue to help give a voice to people, to give people tools and resources that they can utilize so they actually know where they can turn to.
It's been since 2011, since the trial, 2008, since Kelly Marie died, but she's got more than 2 million views, and she just posted this thing. Now she's going to be visible apparently on TikTok, but also where she's doing her real interaction with the public at this point is on Substack, which is kind of like a social media site for written words rather than videos, and you can write articles and do long posts and things like that. I want to read a couple of these. Here she is describing her biography. It's been more than 16 years since my name became a household one. Everyone seems to have an opinion about me and about my life. I'm an advocate, a researcher. These are my words. This is my real life. Here she's talking about the presumption of innocence, which is something. And the presumption of innocence is a sacred right afforded to all individuals arrested in this country. That is not an opinion. It is a fact. We are plagued by a rush to judgment before someone even steps foot in a courtroom. Once a verdict is read, however long the process takes, the public must trust that the system worked the way it was intended. You are not entitled to your opinions. You are entitled to your opinions, not your own set of facts. You, as the general public, will never know the full facts of a case. The media will never tell you the full truth. Well, in the case of a trial, like we get to see the evidence in states like Florida, they will tell you what you think and how to feel. Educate yourselves. Stop spreading hate. If tomorrow you woke up and were arrested, accused of a crime you didn't commit, or someone close to you were to be, wouldn't you want for them to be treated fairly and just? It's not that complicated. Okay. I want to go through some of the comments on her post. So people have been commenting as well. Knock, knock, we know who you are. And then she actually responds, you know my name, but not my real story. If you care to listen, you might just learn something. So continue to live in ignorance or simply pay attention. Someone else, blah, 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 go KYS, kill yourself. You shouldn't be posting that stuff, but that's how someone felt. The response, just so you know, even if you're using an acronym for that phrase, it is still considered cyberbullying and it's illegal. You may want to educate yourself before you make slanderous remarks to somebody on the internet. Word of caution. Finally, the nerve you have to monetize your social media and restrict responses to only those who pay you. And I guess maybe she's making potentially some money on this from membership, etc. Everyone's entitled to do that, but in order to do that, you have to have an audience. You have to have people who want to hear from you, and apparently there might be some who do. But I'm really intrigued by this concept of legal advocate, what it exactly means. So she also, as she posted on TikTok, I have to play for you some of the reaction videos that folks are having on TikTok.
If you find yourself in court and Casey Anthony shows up to be your lawyer, you might just want to slap the cuffs on now.
What?
I feel that
Women's rights. Oh, right. I'm not going to,
Kaylee Anthony is my daughter. And then her you mean was, right? You mean was? Did you forget? You forget what you did? You forget what made you famous?
Now she's trying to use social media to rebrand herself as a legal advocate. Apparently, she's been in the legal field since 2011, since she went on trial for the thing. I feel like we're all being gaslit.
Let's bring in our special guest, retired 9th Judicial Circuit Judge. He presided over this case, wrote the book, The Velvet Hammer, about this case and others. The Honorable Belvin Curry. Good evening, Judge. How are you?
Good evening, Vinny. I'm just dumbfounded.
Well, tell me your response about this whole thing that it appears that she's doing.
Vinny, to me, it's another simple stunt. She wants people to pay attention, but she wants people to pay attention at a price of $10 a month. It's just another one of her stories where she wants to be in the media spotlight. She hadn't been there for a while. Now she wants to come back out, but she wants everyone to pay for it. And that's the bottom line. You can't believe a word she says.
And the payment is a big part of this, because I remember after the trial, there was all the, after the big trials, there's usually the big interview, especially after a not guilty. Someone who gets the interview. And we were waiting to see if it was going to be one of the morning shows. And my guess all along was, number one, probably wanted to get paid for the interview. And those places, well, they're not supposed to pay, right? Ethically, as journalists, we're not supposed to pay for interviews. But she never did. There was a lot of, flack about it. And then she did do that documentary or mockumentary that we saw a while back. So my guess is there was some money there, perhaps, that she made. But you're right. She wants to be paid for what she has gone through. What do you think of this concept of legal advocate? And what is a legal advocate versus a lawyer?
Well, she can't represent herself as being a lawyer, but the question is, what is she going to advocate for? Is she going to advocate to everyone's conspiracy theories that they come up in their own minds and ask her to comment? I mean, she's very vague and ambiguous about what is she going to advocate for. Is there going to be other people of her persuasion that feel that they were, quote, wrongfully accused or convicted? It's very nebulous.
And obviously she, became sort of a target of the public, because many members of the public, overwhelming majority, believed before the trial, during the trial, and after the trial that she was, in fact, responsible. The jury disagreed, so she's found not guilty. If people are attacking you all along, and I mean, I don't remember her ever filing defamation suits against anyone. And obviously, if you are being wrongfully accused of doing something, you're entitled to do that.
You're absolutely right. And again, Vinny, I don't mean to be redundant, but she wants the spotlight again. But she also wants the spotlight looking for the green bomb, money. That's what she's looking for. How is she supporting herself with her new move to Tennessee?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Is she still in Tennessee?
If she's still there, I know. And she sort of vaguely referenced that some people that she knows have gotten into some issues. I don't know exactly what she was talking about. I guess you have to be a full-fledged member of her site or Substack to understand all that. At the end of the day, how do you think this turns out? Do you think this becomes a successful venture for her? Are there enough people who may want to interact with her for whatever reason?
I think initially she will get a few nibbles. I think she'll make a little money, and then I think it will eventually go away, because there are only so many suckers that are out in the world that's going to bite and pay $10 a month. She's going to get a few nibbles. And once people start seeing the answers that she gives on those emails, it's going to slowly fade away, just like all of the lies and stories she's told us thus far. I don't know what happened, and then she drowned, and my daddy was a monster.
Yeah, I still can't believe it. It's been a while since the trial. Seems just like yesterday. Judge Belvin Perry, great to see you. Thanks so much. All right, let's bring in our think tank, get some reaction from them tonight. Joining us, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Al Wunsch III, criminal defense attorney Darnell Crossland, and family law attorney Jennifer Brandt. All right, folks. She's viral, Al. So I'm just wondering, she's a legal advocate, and I'm trying to understand what that is. I always thought, like, we lawyers were legal advocates, right? Is there another position that I didn't know about beforehand that exists where you are a legal advocate but not a lawyer, not practicing law? And if so, what do you do? And like, who would go for a legal advocate instead of a lawyer? I'm trying to figure that out, Al.
Well, Vin, can I call you Vin?
Yes.
You know that I'm a bit of a wordsmith, okay? And you've known that with all the years that we've been together. And then I have coined a phrase for a person whose notoriety is driven solely because they've been facing a jail cell, and that word is celebrity.
Lift it a little higher. There we go.
Celebrity. Okay? A celebrity. That is a person whose notoriety is sort of because they have a chance to go to jail. And there is a certain amount of excitement from the public on people like this. And I do think she'll get some people looking in on it, and they'll start with it, and they'll, kind of get it going for, a tad. But this legal advocate, that's kind of a weird term. I don't understand, she's thrown out that the group she's going to be looking for is women and the LGBT community and things along those lines, and that she's there to try to help out as an advocate. Now, what does that mean? Collecting petitions, getting signatures, sending cards. I mean, there's nothing that she can really do. She can't appear in a courtroom. There's really not much that can be done. So a legal advocate is really a complete waste of time.
Yeah.
Take the $100 for the year and go to a lawyer and, maybe get a consultation. I mean, I know Darnell only charges $15 for an initial consult.
For the first consult. So Darnell, she's also doing research, and I wonder if she's doing the research on Firefox, because that was the search engine that investigators failed to look at, surprised the defense team, because there were a lot of searches on her Firefox search engine involving chloroform, but I guess it didn't make its way into the trial. But what are your thoughts about this legal advocate researcher out there to help folks?
Well, a couple of things. Al just announced that you and he have been together for a long time in a domestic partnership. And if you ever want to get a divorce, Jennifer Brandt will take you as a client easily. And I'd be an advocate to get you out of that situation. And it would be more of like a victim advocate, not a legal advocate.
So I'd be the victim in that relationship.
Absolutely. So I'm thinking that Casey Anthony will be a good victim's advocate if she's claiming that people have been perhaps victimized by the system, wrongly accused, etc. But I am concerned when she used the word legal advocate, and that could be a bar issue. In terms of this trial, I do remember actually seeing you covering this trial. Am I correct? Like some time ago, I think you were down there.
I was down there. I was utterly shocked. My jaw literally dropped. I could not believe it, but it happened. All right, so tell me, Jennifer Brandt, if in fact this split goes through, can I get custody of Al's pens? I want custody of the pens, at least on weekends.
And the pocket protector. I think you can get that as well, Vinny. You're entitled to that.
What do you think of this Casey madness tonight, Jennifer?
I think that Casey is going to do fantastic on TikTok and Substack, because there are people out there that are looking at all kinds of things on these social media sites. And there are a lot of young people who are on TikTok who really are not familiar with, or as familiar with, the Casey Anthony trial as we are, and those who have covered it. So they may look to her like, hey, this is somebody who got away with murder, we believe. And, what did she do? What does she know? She certainly knows about the legal system. She's been through a couple of trials.
First-hand knowledge.
Through a lot.
I mean, that's the kind of knowledge very few people have, to be accused of murder and to be found not guilty. It's a small club, so
I think she's going to have a huge following.
All right.
I definitely do.
Well, she's off to a big start with 2.3 million views from this first talk or tick.
Do we think Anthony Baez might come on her show?
I don't think so. He's making way too much money.
Okay, guys. We already know where Casey stands right now, and as of Monday, as you just saw, she's got 1,000 subscribers on her Substack. Who knows? God knows how many followers on TikTok right now, and And I am happy to say that, one, you can find me on TikTok, King of Hearts 316 2021, but you will not find me as a follower of Casey Anthony's. Yes, right. In fact, um, we have gone. I've went all around just on TikTok alone, and there are many people who said that Casey's got her comments turned off. They just want to say what's on their mind, and Casey's not about hearing all that. So I've also heard a great deal of people on TikTok saying there are certain things they would trust more than having Casey Anthony as a legal advocate. And I'm gonna get to mine dead last because I don't know if I have any of these people beat or not, but here's what we got. There was one person who made a post saying that he would trust Jeffrey Dahmer at a cookout than trust Casey Anthony as a legal advocate. Y'all know what happened to him. Then there's one who said that they would trust Ted Bundy on the beach and trust Casey Anthony as their legal advocate. I'm like, okay, Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, I see where this is going. Then here's one that really hit home. They'd rather trust Bill Cosby either as their bartender or just giving parenting advice than trust Casey Anthony with giving legal advice. I said, okay. I see how this is going. I see how this is going. Maybe I'll play along too. They kept it going and going and going and going. In fact, I've even heard they would trust Elon Musk. They would trust Elon Musk not to bury this country into the ground before they trust Casey Anthony as their legal advocate. Then I decided to throw my 2 cents in the mix. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what I said, it's my opinion and my opinion only, but this is how much I trust Casey Anthony with legal advice to me. I said I would rather trust President Donald Trump to tell me the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth than to trust Casey Anthony as my legal advocate. I even went further to say that if I had to trust Casey Anthony as my legal advocate, put me in jail now. And then on top of it, I've heard it said. I don't know whether Casey said it herself or was quoted, but word is she wants to be an actual legal advocate for the LGBTQ community. I'm gonna let y'all sit on that one, and you make a point on that one. All I know is, ladies and gentlemen, she's got followers on Substack, she's got followers on TikTok, and I'm willing to bet a lot of them are male for one given reason. The same reason that most of the jury decided she was not guilty in her trial in 2011. But She's back. She's a quote unquote, and I'm using air quotes, she's a legal advocate. But the real issue here is this: she's still running around living the bella vita. Meanwhile, her daughter is no longer with us. Now watch this. If her daughter was alive today, she would be somewhere between 19, 20, or just in her early 20s. She'd be thriving. She would be the one living la bella vita. But instead of her being alive to enjoy her life, we have a lot of people across this country, myself included, still crying for justice for Kaylee. If that means shutting Casey down every chance we get, then so help us. That's likely what's going to happen. All right, now that we got that over with, let's get down to what we're really here: true crime and legal news. And we're going to kick things off with the sentencing in the bedtime murder trial. Jermaine Bass was convicted of shooting his 2 children, killing his 5-year-old daughter, and shooting his 8-year-old son. Let's find out what his fate will be.
And the accident that you're referring to is the death of your children in that statement? That's what you're referring to as the accident?
Yes.
Anything else from either side?
Your Honor, of course, has no discretion as to count 1. The defense is asking that you take into consideration the lack of criminal history. Mr. Bass's statements about being a good provider and a good father are actually true. We took a deposition of Ms. Bass. She indicated all of that. He was a loving father, took care of his children, participated in their school. He was a loving husband, provided for his family. I don't think anybody understands to this day why this happened, just like echoing the comments of Mr. Thierry in opening statement, why. So at this time, Your Honor, I am asking that you run counts 2, 3, and 4 concurrent to count 1. And I would just ask my co-counsel if I listen to anything. That's all we have. Thank you, Judge.
All right. Anything else from the state?
No, Your Honor.
All right, come up.
And Judge, we have calculated the credit, and the clerk has the same calculation we do, and it is 917 days.
917?
Yes, ma'am.
State requesting cost of prosecution?
Yes, Your Honor.
And any objection from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
All right. And on count 2, there's a 25-year min-man.
Yes, sir. Yes, Your Honor.
And on count 3, there's a 20-year minimum mandatory.
think it's the same, Judge. It's the same.
Is it?
I believe they're both 25 years.
Discharge with great bodily harm. All right. All right, based on the jury's verdict, Mr. Bass, on counts 1, 2, 3, and 4, you're adjudicated guilty, sentenced to life in Florida State Prison. Counts 1, 2, 3, and 4 each carry a 25-year minimum mandatory sentence. Count 1 is life without possibility of parole. That's for the first-degree murder of Jayla Bass. Impose all mandatory costs as a lien against you. That includes the $150 for the cost of prosecution. You have credit for 917 days. Is that your understanding of your credit time?
Yes, Your Honor.
All the counts are to run concurrent. All the minimum mandatories are to run concurrent. Any questions about this sentence? You have 30 days to appeal the verdict of the jury and the judgment of the court. If you cannot afford the services of an attorney for the purposes of appeal, one will be appointed for you. I know the Office of the Public Defender will perfect the appellate paperwork before they withdraw from representation.
And Judge, may we send you an order today appointing us?
Yes.
Thank you, Judge.
All right. Did you get the motion for new trial filed? Is it in Odyssey?
Life without the possibility of parole. That is the fate of Jermaine LaWanda Bass Jr. He'll spend the rest of his life in prison after a jury found him guilty of shooting his 2 children, killing one of them. 32-year-old was convicted of first-degree murder, attempted murder, and 2 counts of aggravated child abuse for the shooting that killed his 5-year-old daughter Jalen Bass and injured his 8-year-old son JJ. The judge sentenced Bass life in prison without parole for his daughter's murder at a minimum of 25 years for shooting his son. All the other charges you've heard will run concurrent to the top count of the first-degree murder, which will be life in prison, no parole. And ladies and gentlemen, you know how I usually end cases like this, depending on the sentence and the length of time they get in. There is no doubt about this one. Justice is served. Next up, the judge is going. There's a judge in Wisconsin who is going to stay the conditional release pending a hearing for Morgan Geyser. Morgan Geyser involved in the Slender Man case. Here's the breakdown of that. A Waukesha County judge has ruled Morgan Geyser's conditional release to be stayed pending a hearing. The decision came nearly a month after Waukesha County Circuit Court Judge Michael Boren, initially ruled to grant her conditional release to a group home, saying rehabilitation requires individuals to be involved in the community. Geyser was originally committed to a mental health facility for 40 years after being found not guilty to mental disease or defect for nearly stabbing her friend to death in 2014. She and Anissa Weier admitted to the attack on Peyton Lautner, saying they did it to appease a fictional character, Slender Man. The latest ruling follows concerns raised by Winnebago Mental Health Institute, where Geyser has been held. The institution filed a petition with the court, citing concerns about a book she was reading and a person she was communicating with. The book, allegedly a Stephen King novel, contained themes of sexual sadism and graphic content, according to the petition argued in court Friday. Geis's defense argued in court that she is safe for release, citing the institution's controlled access, knowledge of visitors, and ability to monitor meetings. It feels to me like a hit job at the last minute, her attorney said. A motion hearing is scheduled for March 6th, which I will have an update on. That is according to court records. So stick around, ladies and gentlemen. I have the update on this particular case coming up a little bit later. Next, Jennifer Gledhill is urging her lover not to see her as a monster in a telephone call. During a court hearing, prosecutors presented photos of the alleged crime scene and a phone call with her alleged lover. A judge denied bail for a Utah woman accused of murdering her missing husband, saying that there is a substantial danger to a community. During a hearing Friday, on last Friday, not this past Friday, but during that hearing, the state presented new evidence they say connects Jennifer Gledhill to the death of Matthew Johnson in the couple's Cottonwood Heights home in September. Gledhill was arrested on October 2nd for murder and obstruction of justice, despite ongoing searches for Johnson. Officials have yet to locate his body. As the evidence shared in that hearing was phone tracking data that showed Gledhill traveled from the couple's home on September 21st to a location where Johnson's truck was found. A map shared GPS tracking of Gledhill's phone on September 22nd, the day after the alleged murder, that showed her traveling north towards Davis County. A search of the area found a vehicle storage container that apparently floated to the water surface after a storm. Johnson's blood was also confirmed to be found inside the storage container. GPS data also placed Gledhill at a Davis County location where a mattress from the couple's home, along with pillows that were wrapped in a rug that further evidence showed was once inside the Cottonwood Heights house. Photos also showed DNA evidence of Johnson's blood on a rug and other areas inside the bedroom where he was allegedly sleeping when he was killed. Prosecutors said a man with whom Gledhill was having an extramarital affair told police that she had shot Johnson in the head while he slept, then put his body in a storage container and loaded it into her minivan. Prosecutors also read a transcript of a phone call between Gledhill and her lover. In the call, Gledhill allegedly apologized to the man for telling him what had happened and told him not to think of her as a monster, quote unquote. She asked the man to, quote, remember her for who she was before she opened her mouth, end quote. Gledhill also told the man that the fact that he was now scared of her broke her heart. Judge Adam Mao also denied the defense's request for bail during those proceedings. If this guy is scared of her, if I were him, I would be saying, feet don't fail me now. I am running so far in the opposite direction, I won't even have time to be any more scared than what I was then. I'm just saying. Let's see. Next. Next up, Dale Warner's son is arrested in connection with the murder of Dee Warner. Jerron Warner, Dale's son and Dee's stepson, arrested on charges of tampering with evidence and accessory after the fact to a felony. Let's see what we got going on with this. All right. A second person has been arrested in connection to the 2021 murder of Dee Warner. Michigan State Police said Jerron Dale Warner, the son of Dale Warner and Dee's stepson, was arrested. The 28-year-old was arraigned on charges of tampering with evidence and accessory after the fact to a felony. He was given a $125,000 bond. I've been hoping that he'd be arrested for quite a while because I always believed that he had information, Dee's brother Greg Hardy told Script News Detroit. Dee's husband, Dale, has been charged in connection with Dee's murder. She was last seen in April 2021 near her home in Tecumseh. Last June, a judge ruled that Dale would stand trial in the case. He's set to go to trial later this year. In August 2024, Michigan State Police discovered remains that were later identified to be Dee's body on a property owned by Dale. Officials ruled her death a homicide. Hardy said the remains were found in a sealed tank used to hold anhydrous ammonia. There was no ammonia in the tank, which was closed on both ends. Dale has been charged with open murder and tampering with evidence. Previously, Dale's attorney suggested that Dee may not have been murdered at all because, at the time, her body was not found. Now, we have two suspects. We have two suspects and likely two defendants. Dale himself and his own son. Stay tuned, guys. We'll see what becomes of that as more information comes in. We have an Ohio man pleads guilty to strangling his ex-girlfriend during a beach trip. The teens were on a group trip celebrating their recent high school graduation when Blake Linkus strangled Natalie Martin. And he was sentenced to 45 years in prison for that murder. Before his trial began Monday, Blake Linkus pleaded guilty to killing 18-year-old Natalie Martin while on a trip to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. As I mentioned, they were on a group trip celebrating their recent high school graduation when Linkus strangled Martin on June 6, 2023, following an argument over her texting another man. In court, prosecutors said the former couple had broken up weeks before the trip. Other members of the group previously told Fox News that Linkus tried to take his own life after killing Martin. While awaiting trial, Linkus was released on a $150,000 bond and the condition that he undergo mental health evaluation and waive extradition to be on house arrest at his parents' home in Ohio. That's according to a report from WMBF. Now 20 years old, Linkus was facing up to life in prison if convicted at trial. Prosecutors asked for a sentence of 45 years, which the judge said was more than appropriate given the circumstances. 45 years, he's 20 now, so you'll be out at the age of 65. Yeah, I'm doing that math. Given the circumstances, yeah, I would say justice served. Next up, I'll update this. I got an update for that. I want to go right to the verdict in the birthday party murder trial, Michigan versus Marcella Chidester. She's standing trial on 9 charges, including second-degree murder in a crash that killed 2 siblings. Okay, a Michigan woman facing up to life in prison after she was convicted of killing two children when she crashed her vehicle into a boat club. Marcella Chidester was convicted of 9 charges, including second-degree murder in a crash that killed 8-year-old Alana Phillips and her 4-year-old brother Zane Phillips. More than a dozen people were also injured in the crash. Her sentencing is scheduled for May 15th. Chidester was drunk when she crashed into the Swan Boat Club in Berlin Township on April 20th, 2024, where a kid's birthday party was being held. In body cam video from the scene, Chidester says she passed out and has a history of seizures. She also admitted to drinking a little bit, quote unquote. Her blood alcohol content level was twice the legal limit, according to testimony. I just want people to know how very, very disturbed I am by the situation. I don't remember what happened. I can only say that I've been praying for everyone that's been injured. Chidester told Scripps News Detroit last year. She also said she doesn't remember anything that led to the crash due to her neuropathy and heart problems, but believes she may have had a seizure at the time of the crash. So, on May 15th, we'll find out exactly what her fate is, how long she may serve, given her age and her health circumstances. Next up, Adam Montgomery, that coward. Adam Montgomery files appeal claiming inconsistencies in testimony. Okay. In his appeal, Adam Montgomery claims he deserves a new trial and points to inconsistencies in his ex's testimony. Okay, hold on. I'll save my signature line for the end. One year after he was convicted of brutally murdering his daughter, Adam Montgomery has filed an appeal asking for a new trial. Adam was convicted in February 2024 of murdering his daughter Harmony, whose body has never been found. At trial, he admitted to helping dispose of her body, but denied killing the child before she disappeared in 2019. The appeal argues Adam is owed a new trial because of 3 issues. 1. The court erred in joining charges for July 2019 assault on Harmony with the murder charges. 2. The court erred in admitting prior bad act evidence. And 3. The court erred in admitting body-worn camera video from an encounter Adam had with police on December 31st, 2021. The appeal echoes Adam's argument at trial that he was not the one who killed Harmony, instead blaming his then-wife, Kayla Montgomery. Kayla testified at Adam's trial describing Harmony's death in vivid detail, saying he beat the 5-year-old in the backseat of the family's car, but the appeal points to several inconsistencies in Kayla's testimony, including the fact that no blood was found when the car was searched. When Adam acknowledged multiple witnesses who testified to abuse in July 2019 that left Harmony with a black eye, he argues the only evidence tying him to the murder itself is Kayla, who is described as unreliable and having a history of dishonesty and misplaced trust. Adam was sentenced to serve 56 years to life in prison for murder, in addition to the sentence he was already serving on unrelated charges. So he's filing an appeal for a new trial because of inconsistencies in his ex-wife's testimony. Who better to testify to what happened to Harmony than the ex-wife? But then again, on top of that, if you really think about it, everybody that was supposed to be involved in Harmony's case failed Harmony. Adam, the coward, Kayla, stepmom, CPS, or whatever the agency is called. Everybody that was involved. That was involved. And he wants to appeal because of inconsistencies with Kayla's testimony. Okay. And 50 cents will get me a cup of coffee at Starbucks before you get that new trial. Okay, next up. Karen Reed is in court for a multi-day hearing as prosecution and defense go head-to-head over witnesses and evidence. And like a certain song would say, I hear tensions rising. Things are heating up in that case, as ugly as it was. And I want to bring you all. I also want to bring you all to an editorial. I know I've spoken about it, but now I got an editorial posted on YouTube's on my YouTube community page. I'll get to that in a minute. Karen Reed's defense attorneys went head-to-head with prosecutors in a contentious 2-day hearing ahead of her upcoming retrial on murder charges. Reed and her defense team have been under increased scrutiny in recent weeks after Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan accused them of lying about bias and payments to defense witnesses. Reed's first trial on charges she killed her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, ended in a mistrial. After the jury was unable to reach a unanimous verdict, the defense maintained Reed's innocence and has accused the police and prosecutors of being a part of a wide-ranging cover-up. Tensions ran high in court at the start of the proceedings as Judge Beverly Cannoni questioned Reed's defense team about payments to experts that caused her grave concerns. Judge Cannoni told Reed's attorneys that each one represents the team whenever they speak or misrepresent to the court. Robert Alessi raised his voice when telling Judge Cannoni that he didn't disclose the payments to experts initially because he didn't know about it. He said he disagreed with her ruling that he should be responsible for a misstatement he knew nothing about. Brennan revealed that the federal investigation into the case has been closed, though nothing about what was gleaned from that investigation was revealed. Brennan revealed the change in the investigator's status while proposing that all future motions be filed under seal and all attorneys be placed under a gag order. Prosecutors have accused Reed's defense of violating a protective order by making public a motion that contained text messages allegedly sent to one of the prosecutors in the case. Reed's attorney, David Yannetti, said releasing the text was an oversight, not a willful violation of the order. The parties returned to state court following a morning appearance in federal court for a separate motion to dismiss. Reed and her attorneys focused on 2 elements in their arguments in front of Judge Cannoni in their request for a dismissal based on extraordinary governmental misconduct, allegations of jury tampering, and questions over the video showing Reed's vehicle in the Canton Police Department Sallyport. The jury tampering allegations center around a juror who was dismissed from the case just before Alan Jackson began delivering his closing arguments in Reed's first trial. Jackson identified the person who raised concerns about the juror, Lieutenant Fanning, as being involved in the investigation and included in some of Trooper Michael Proctor's inappropriate text messages. Trooper Proctor was also tied to the missing Sallyport videos, which were turned over to defense in pieces, beginning with the inverted videos shown during Reed's first trial. Proctor had custody of the videos since 2022, but did not share them with the prosecution or defense team until 2024 in what Brennan has referred to as an oversight. Now, I know I've said this many times over how ugly this case has been, but even now, the common sense still lies in something that when the mistrial was announced, I'm still thinking there was something they could have done, yet they didn't. And I'm still asking the question, why? Why didn't they do this? Why couldn't they have do this? Here's what I'm referring to, guys. If I can pull it up on my screen. No, that's not it. Here it is. Let me share this screen with you if I can. Okay, there we go. Let me open this right up, and I'll say everything that I've said time and time before. With every update and pretrial hearing in the case of Karen Reed, I come back to the same question: why not poll the jury to see where they were before the judge, in this case the Honorable Judge Beverly Cannoni, can declare a mistrial officially? Let's start back at the beginning. Karen Reed is facing several charges in connection with the death of her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe. She's charged with second-degree murder. She's accused of deliberately backing her SUV into O'Keefe, causing his death, leaving the scene of a fatal accident. She allegedly left the scene after hitting O'Keefe with her vehicle, and motor vehicle homicide. This charge is related to the alleged act of causing O'Keefe's death while operating a vehicle. Her defense team maintains that she's being framed in a law enforcement cover-up. The case has garnered significant attention, and her second trial is scheduled to begin April 1st. After the first trial, some jurors revealed that they were unanimous in finding Karen Reed not guilty of second-degree murder and leaving the scene of personal injury and death. However, they were not unanimous on the other charges, such as manslaughter and the lesser included charges. The jury's final vote on these charges was a soft 9-3, with 9 jurors voting guilty. That is what led to the mistrial being declared. In all my years of watching court trials, whether the verdict was guilty or not guilty, I've noticed the attorneys will ask for the jury to be polled. Not all the time, but they'll do it. And the question is usually phrased, is this your true and honest verdict? See. Oh no, you're not seeing what I'm seeing. Okay. Hey, let me take myself out of it so that way you can see everything. perspective on that. So you know where to hit me up at, on Facebook, on X, here on YouTube, in the comments, or in the community section. Now, again, I'm linking this entire edition of Bethea'S Byte to the community page. Instagram, TikTok, or you can even email me. I'll give you all those details later. Right now, let's get back into this. The next story I have on the docket: the sheriff that shot the judge plans to present case to pursue an insanity defense. A document filed in court by Sheriff Sean Mickey Stein's attorney states that he intends to present evidence for an insanity defense. Alright, here we go. A document filed in court by the attorney of former Letcher County Sheriff Mickey Stein states that he intends to present evidence for an insanity defense. According to the document, Steins intends to present expert relating to a mental illness or defect or mental condition bearing on the issue of guilt and punishment. Letcher County Sheriff Sean Mickey Steins is accused of fatally shooting District Judge Kevin Mullins in his chambers following an argument. Steins was charged with the murder of Mullins in September 2024. Steins went on to plead not guilty. 2 months after, a video showed him shooting a Kentucky judge at point-blank range in his chambers. That former sheriff was indicted for murder. New video connected to the killing of Kentucky Judge Mullins by Steins. It shows the before and after of the event. To date, prosecutors have not announced whether they will seek the death penalty. So looks like there's still that remote chance. There is still that remote chance. So let's keep that in mind, and we'll find out exactly whether if the prosecutors will seek the death penalty, and will the defense pursue that insanity defense. Next up, a teen with perfect school attendance went absent for weeks. Then police found his mom and stepdad slain at home. Nikita Kassev faces theft and motor vehicle charges after police found the bodies of his mother, Tatiana Kassev, and stepfather, Donald Mayer. Let's find out what that's all about. This looked like that looks like a nice happy family at the beginning of it, but you never know what you're gonna get. Authorities have arrested a Wisconsin teenager on theft of motor vehicle charges after police found his stepfather and mother slain in their home. The deceased couple were found in their home in village of Waukesha, Wisconsin, on Friday, February 28th, by officers conducting a welfare check, according to a statement from Waukesha County Sheriff's Department. Police did not name the victims in the statement, but family members identified them as 51-year-old Donald Mayer and his wife, Tatiana Kassev. That's according to TMJ4, CBS 58, and 12 News. Later, on February 28th, officers from Waukene Police Department in Kansas arrested 17-year-old Nikita Kassev while the team was allegedly driving Mayer's car, according to a criminal complaint initially obtained by 12 News and reviewed by People magazine. The complaint alleges that Nikita had Mayer's firearm on him. Nikita was charged with theft in connection with the vehicle and firearm. He has not been charged in connection with the deaths. Investigators soon learned neither Mayer nor the Cassups had been heard from in the days leading up to the discoveries of the bodies. On February 28th, around the same time Mayer's mother requested a welfare check, a resource officer from Nikita's school requested the same thing. Per the complaint, the resource officer said Nikita had maintained perfect attendance at the school until he stopped showing up about 2 weeks prior. I'm going to take you right now to WISN 12 News for their coverage on this story.
All right, Gino, thank you. Let's get to some breaking news here off the top of 4 out of Waukesha, where we just learned a couple found dead inside their home had been killed.
Tonight, the woman's teenage son is under arrest in Kansas. Deputies made the gruesome discovery Friday while doing a welfare check at the family home on Cider Hills Drive, just off of Genesee Road in the village of Waukesha.
12 News' Hannah Hilliard is covering this story live from the Waukesha County Courthouse this afternoon. Hannah, the son had not been to school in a while, officials tell us, and that's what triggered the welfare check?
Right, Derek. So according to these court documents just filed here at the Waukesha County Courthouse, 17-year-old Nikita Cassup hadn't been to his school here in Waukesha for at least a couple of weeks. A school resource officer there asking to do a welfare check at Cassup's home. And when they got there, that is when they discovered his mom shot dead in a hallway inside that home and her husband dead in an office as well. Both bodies had been covered in clothing and blankets, his mom in a state of decomposition. Detectives discovered one of the family vehicles was missing along with a handgun and the family dog. Relatives tell 12 News, or they've identified Donald Mayer and his wife Tatiana Cassup as the two victims in this case. They say that they had been married for nearly a decade. Donald's mother says she is stunned at the news and desperate for more information on what happened. How are you guys doing as a family right now?
I don't know how to get over this. I'm numb. I just get up and get breakfast and do the dishes and then just sit here waiting. The autopsy is supposed to be performed today, and they promised that they would call me when it was done. Not that anything that they say would make it anything any better, but any answers would just be a good thing.
Something no family should ever have to go through. Hannah, police in Kansas, you understand, arrested Nikita Cassup?
Right, Derek. So according to those court documents, police pulled over Cassup in the small west central Kansas town called Wakini. And there they had learned that the car he was driving had been stolen. In the vehicle, police say they found the family dog as well as a gun under the passenger side floorboard and both Cassup's parents' driver's license. Right now, Cassup is only charged with operating a motor vehicle without owner's consent and theft. He has not been charged in his parents' deaths at all.
Hannah Hilliard live outside the Waukesha County Courthouse this afternoon. And
that was from WISN 12 News in Wisconsin. The article continues to go on saying that the couple had waning communication with those who knew them throughout the month of February, according to a complaint. Tatiana's vehicle was last recorded in a license plate reader in the neighborhood on February 11th. On February 23rd, Mayer's mother said she received suspicious and weird text messages from him, she told police. Mayer's manager at work told authorities that he last heard from him on February 25th and received a text from the victim's number saying he was sick and couldn't talk on the phone. During the welfare check on February 28th, Tatiana was found covered in blankets next to dry blood and a bullet hole. Mayer was found under a pile of clothes with an obvious wound on his head, per the complaint. Police eventually tracked Nikita using Mayer's car information. He has been charged with 1 count of theft and 1 count of operating a motor vehicle without the owner's consent, per the criminal complaint. Online court records did not indicate a plea or attorney information for Nikita. Waukesha authorities said that an autopsy had been completed but did not declare a cause of death. So, and the investigation is still ongoing. Anyone with information or leads related to the case is requested to contact Detective Sam Yankee. That number is 262-896-8117, 262-896-8117, or 262-548-7128, 262-548-7128. Any information you give can be very helpful in this case. Let's see what we got next. This one. Justice served. And I am so happy to hear something like this. A daycare owner whose fentanyl trafficking operation killed a 1-year-old is sentenced to 45 years. Oh, this is well deserved. Alright, here's our convicted defendant right here, Gray Mendez, and this is the little victim here, Nicholas Felice Dominici. Oh, and how appropriate! This is also my birthplace, New York City. A New York City daycare owner whose child care facility doubled as a narcotics stash house has been sentenced to nearly half a century in prison after a 1-year-old in her care died from exposure to fentanyl. 37-year-old Gray Mendez pleaded guilty in October to 1 count of conspiracy to distribute narcotics, resulting in the death and serious bodily injury, and 2 drug possession charges for the September 2023 death of a 1-year-old and poisoning of 3 other children in her care. She was sentenced to 45 years in prison. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York. The child, 22-month-old Nicholas Felice Dominici, was killed after children's play mats had been stored under a kilogram brick of fentanyl at the Divino Niño daycare in the Bronx, where people previously reported this. In their statement, prosecutors said Mendez and her co-conspirators operated the narcotics business out of the daycare between June 2022 and September 2023, during which time they kept more than 11 kilograms of fentanyl and heroin in their daycare across secret compartments or traps located underneath the floor tiles in the playroom. Mendez's cousin, 41-year-old Carlisto Acevedo Brito, was also arrested at the time on charges of assault, criminal possession of a controlled substance, and narcotic drug, endangering the welfare of a child, and manslaughter, among others, according to the NYPD. He pleaded not guilty to federal charges in October 2023. Mendez also received 5 years of supervised release. No punishment can make up for a child loss, acting U.S. Attorney Michael Podolsky said in a statement. But today's sentence sends the message that this office and our law enforcement partners will work tirelessly to bring justice to anyone who uses children as a shield in the drug trade. And this brings me to a public service announcement that basically this was tantamount to child abuse. This was tantamount to child abuse. And as I've said many times over, no child deserves to be abused. If you suspect child abuse, you are asked to reach out to the Child Help National Child Abuse Hotline. That number is 1-800-4A-CHILD, 1-800-422-4453, or go to childhelp.org. Childhelp.org. That is the best place to get a hold of anyone who can help you in regards to getting these children out of this situation. This hotline is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and is available in more than 170 languages. A child is nowhere near no child is worth abusing. They don't deserve it, and they sure didn't ask for it. If you see this happening, call the National Child Abuse Hotline. That number is 1-800-4A-CHILD. And ask for Gray Mendez. All those victims of the abuse that this child and children like them suffered. I'm glad you got the sentence you got. That, my friends, is justice served. Next up, we're gonna go to the we're gonna quickly hit the Bryan Kohberger case. The judge is telling the attorneys in that case to stop being so secretive. Another unsealed document revealed DNA from 3 separate people was discovered under Madison Mogen's fingernails. Even I gotta admit, I gotta agree with the judge. If they're gonna let it out, let the whole thing out. Stop being so secretive. An Idaho judge is warning attorneys to quit filing so many sealed documents in the murder case of a man accused in the stabbing deaths of 4 University of Idaho students. Bryan Kohberger's defense attorneys and prosecutors have made secrecy the norm rather than an exception. 4th District Judge Stephen Hippler wrote in a court order on this past Monday, that is. This runs counter to the public's First Amendment rights to know what is going on in its courts. Hippler wrote that he ordered the attorneys to use at least restrictive steps necessary to protect confidential information in the case, such as redacting some lines or using initials instead of an individual's full name. Kohberger is charged with 4 counts of murder in the deaths of Ethan Chapin, Xander Kernodle, Madison Mogen, and Kaylee Gonsalves, students who were killed in the early morning of November 13, 2022 at a rental home near their campus in Moscow, Idaho. When asked to enter a plea last year, Kohberger stood silent, prompting a judge to enter a not guilty on his behalf. Prosecutors have said they will seek the death penalty if Kohberger is convicted. Hippler's directive came as a flurry of new motions were filed ahead of the August trial, including a sealed defense motion to take the death penalty off the table that cited autism spectrum disorder. Other sealed motions included one on whether the terms psychopath or sociopath can be used during the trial, and one from prosecutors about the presence of immediate family members in the courtroom during the trial. Some of the currently sealed documents will be redacted and made public. Others will remain sealed, the judge ruled. Another document revealed a 3-person DNA mixture was found under victim Madison Mogen's fingernails that yielded inconclusive results according to a defense motion to limit testimony about the statistical analysis of the fingernail scrapings, referring to it as inconclusive data. A trial is expected to begin August 11th and last for more than 3 months. Again, I stand with the judge. If you're gonna drop all these different motions and all these different things, stop being so secret about it. Let it out. If you got to redact some names, do it. If you got to use initials, do it. But stop being so secretive about it. Let's see. Now, next up on the docket is the sentencing of Larry Graham, the stepdaughter turned wife murder trial. I'm gonna be sure if we have the verdict. No, not the verdict, but the sentencing. He is facing between 9 and 41 years at his sentencing after being convicted of murdering his stepdaughter turned wife, Danique Ingram. Excuse me. We're gonna find that out in just a second. Let's see, when is the sentencing for this case? All right, let me run through the article. Maybe I'll spit that date out within that. Larry Ingram could spend the rest of his life in prison after being found guilty of murdering his wife, Danique Ingram. A Wichita jury didn't buy Larry's claim that he acted in self-defense when he fatally shot Danique. Larry was convicted on January 23, 2024 of second-degree murder, along with one count of domestic violence. He was also found guilty of violating a pretrial protective order. Danique, who had been Larry's stepdaughter before becoming his common-law wife, was killed in the couple's Wichita apartment on December 21st, 2023. The two shared a 3-month-old infant. Larry initially told police that he heard a noise in the apartment and called Danique's name, but she didn't answer. At that point, she walked around the corner, frightened him, and he opened fire. Then Larry changed the story to tell police that he had issues with someone slashing his tires, was afraid of a home invasion, and left his room to find Danique on the floor. Investigators quickly determined that a protective order required Larry to stay away from Danique. That order existed because Danique was the star witness in a separate case against Larry, where he was charged with rape and incest, according to the Wichita Eagle. He killed her so that she couldn't testify, Danique's mother, Deneva Chandler, told the outlet. A year after Danique's murder, Larry was convicted of 17 crimes related to the abuse of her sisters, again according to the Wichita Eagle. Larry was expected to face a double sentencing hearing on March 7th to be sentenced for the murder as well as the child sex abuse and incest case, but that was continued after he expressed dissatisfaction with his attorney in the 2021 case. According to Kansas sentencing guidelines, Larry Ingram is facing 9 to 41 years in prison for unintentional but reckless second-degree murder, 48 hours to 6 months in jail for domestic violence, and up to a year in jail for violating a pretrial protective order. So we don't know when the sentencing will actually be until. So we'll have to wait until we get that information. In a sad case that I brought to you last week, a judge grants a petition to declare the Skelton brothers legally dead. Judge Catherine Sala acknowledged the terrible and long-standing impact of the search for the missing boys. And this is one of those sad cases. A Michigan probate court judge granted a mother's request to declare her missing sons dead after 14 years, but said there was not enough evidence for her to reach a legal conclusion that their father murdered them. Judge Catherine Sala acknowledged the terrible and long-standing impact of the search for missing Skelton brothers, 9-year-old Andrew, 7-year-old Alexander, and 5-year-old Tanner. A neighbor was the last to see them alive on Thanksgiving Day 2010 when they were playing in the yard of their father's Lenawee County home. Their father, John Skelton, failed to return them to their mother the next day, and the boys have not been located or heard from since, despite extensive law enforcement efforts. It is with the gravest of condolences that it is ordered that Alexander William Skelton, Andrew Ryan Skelton, and Tanner Lucas Skelton are presumed to be deceased, the judge said with her voice quivering. The boy's mother, Tanya Zuvers, listened to the judge's long-awaited ruling from inside the courtroom with her head bowed. Zuvers told the judge earlier in the week that she was seeking a death declaration for her sons to bring closure and respect to their memory, despite the fate she believes that they suffered at their father's hand. Zuvers and law enforcement officers testified in the one-day hearing that there was no doubt in their minds that John Skelton had killed his sons. Skelton was found in a hospital and arrested days after the boys went missing and pleaded guilty to one charge of unlawful imprisonment. He declined to appear via video conference for the hearing on Zuvers' petition to declare the boys dead. But Sala said she could not reach the legal conclusion that Skelton murdered his sons based on the speculative and circumstantial nature of the evidence and the investigator's opinion, noting it was based on mainly hearsay. Given the undisputed disappearance for over 14 years, the statutory presumption of death applies. The presentation of evidence, however, does not present clear and convincing evidence that John Skelton murdered these children. The information provided at this trial provides ample opportunity for speculation and theories, but to make such a finding, the court will only be joining those voices offering such speculation and theory, given the lack of information, Sala said. When John Skelton failed to return his sons to the custody of their mother the day after Thanksgiving, he gave police several explanations for their whereabouts. Initially, he said a friend picked them up, but later said that was a cover story for a clandestine operation to move the kids to a secret underground group to protect them from their mother, who had served time years before for a sex offense involving a minor. Former Morenci Police Chief Larry Weeks testified. Weeks and other law enforcement witnesses from Michigan State Police and the Federal Bureau of Investigation spent hours outlining the years-long painstaking investigation that led them to debunk John Skelton's account and conclude he was a liar. Former Michigan State Police Detective Sergeant Jeremy Brewer described one such instance, when Skelton gave him the name of a person he said was connected to the secret group. Authorities located the man Mose Gingerich, an Amish-born television personality known for helping others leave the Amish community. He denied involvement or knowledge of Skelton's claims, and authorities flew Gingerich to Michigan for a face-to-face encounter with Skelton in prison. He became white as a ghost. He couldn't formulate a sentence. Brewer testified in a hearing to declare the boys dead. John never thought in a million years we would call his bluff. Brewer and the other witnesses outlined the scope of incriminating evidence against John Skelton, which included web searches on his laptop for terms such as "can rat poison kill a person" and "how to break someone else's neck with hands." a 3-page suicide note addressed to Tanya Zuvers, in which he said things like, "I'm sorry to hurt you yet again, but this time it was on purpose. I guess my actions today will guarantee you won't have to see me again or in heaven. You'll hate me forever, and I know this." When asked where the boys were, he told his pastor, "Home. I sent them home." Cell tower data shows John's phone traveling from the area of his Morenci home to a campground in Ohio and back between 4:30 and 7 a.m. on Friday, November 26, 2010, the morning after Thanksgiving. A relative passed by John's house around 5 a.m. and saw his van gone from the driveway. John dropped off a suitcase with the boys' coats, toothbrushes, and laptop at his aunt's house on the morning of November 26, 2010, and said they didn't need them anymore. Judge Salo described the law enforcement presentation as high level and lacking in supporting documentation to verify the witnesses' claims, undermining their reliability. The impact of this ruling is not lost on this court, for it is also a part of this community, Salas said, pausing for composure. But the court must follow the law, and to ignore it in this case risks the very structures upon which our system of justice is built. On cases like this, I would have a lot to say, but I truly am at a loss for words. I really, really hope that somehow, some way, those children do get justice. Because all 3 of them deserve it. I know, and I know just from reading the article, it's saying that there is no evidence linking John Skelton to the murder of the boys, but for some particular reason, I don't know why, I don't know how, but I believe he did it. I believe deep down he murdered those boys. Next up, Florida's Attorney General as announcing criminal investigation into the Tate brothers. Florida's Attorney General announced that his office has opened a criminal investigation into Andrew and Tristan Tate, who are charged with human trafficking in Romania days after they returned to the United States. Attorney General James Uffmeyer announced on social media that he directed his office to work with law enforcement to conduct a preliminary inquiry into the Tate brothers. Based on a thorough review of the evidence, I've directed the Office of Statewide Prosecution to execute search warrants and issue subpoenas in the now active criminal investigation into the Tate brothers, Uffmeyer said. After the Tates landed in Fort Lauderdale, Governor Ron DeSantis told reporters that the brothers weren't welcome in Florida and that he would have the Attorney General examine whether the state may have any jurisdiction over their alleged crimes. During an appearance on the PD podcast, Andrew Tate said the governor was caving to media pressure. Tate said he has a U.S. passport and a right to visit his home country. He said he has broken no laws and that he has never been tried, let alone convicted of a crime. The Tates, who are dual U.S. and British citizens, were arrested in late 2022 and formally indicted last year in Romania on charges they participated in a criminal ring that lured women to that country where they were sexually exploited. Andrew Tate was also charged with rape. They deny the allegations. 38-year-old Andrew Tate is a former professional kickboxer and self-described misogynist who is a hugely successful social media figure, attracting millions of followers, many of them young men and school children drawn in by the luxurious lifestyle the influencer projects online. He and his 36-year-old brother Tristan, 36, not 56, are vocal supporters of President Donald Trump. Andrew Tate was previously banned from TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook for hate speech and his misogynistic comments, including that women should bear responsibility for getting sexually assaulted. The Tates left Romania after Foreign Minister Emil Hurizanu said this month that a Trump administration official expressed interest in the brothers' case at the recent Munich Security Conference. Whew. These two, in Florida no less. I hope that these two get what they're not looking for. They're claiming that they're not guilty of whatever they're being charged with, but a lot of us are not so sure about that, including Florida's own governor. In fact, it's so bad he's even said that they're not even welcome in the state. Now, if you're not welcome in the state of Florida, you have got to be something horrible. You've got to be something horrible in order to not be welcome in the great state of Florida. I'm just saying. Next up on the docket, a 14-year-old boy was found in Colorado on Sunday, February 23rd. Douglas County Sheriff's Office announced it on March 5th. He disappeared from Georgia age 7 years ago. Why is his mother facing charges? Let's dig in. This is our little boy Abdul Aziz Khan. This is him at the age of 7. A boy who was abducted from Georgia 7 years ago has been found. Abdul Aziz Khan, now 14, was found in Colorado on February 23rd. That's according to the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, making the announcement on Wednesday, March 5th. According to the Sheriff's Office, deputies were called to a home on Kellywood Way in Highlands Ranch, Colorado, to investigate a burglary in progress around 3:37 p.m. on February 23rd. A homeowner monitoring their security cameras for a house that he had for sale noticed some suspicious activity and immediately called the Sheriff's Office. Douglas County Sheriff Darren Weekly said during a news conference on that Wednesday. Deputies arrived and encountered 2 children in a vehicle in the driveway. Soon after, a female and a male, who were later identified as Abdul's mother, Rabia Khalid, and Elliot Blake Bourgeois, came out of the home and claimed to be associated with a realtor, according to a Douglas County Sheriff's Office press release. Weekly said deputies began to uncover inconsistencies in the suspect's story. Deputies, he said, worked tirelessly to verify the identities of everyone involved. They knew something wasn't right. They were following their gut, and they investigated further. They just didn't take it on face value and take the easy way out and move on. They dug and dug and dug for about 5 hours until they could figure out what was going on. Deputies eventually discovered that Khalid, age 40, was wanted for kidnapping the boy, then 7, in Atlanta on November 27, 2017. Weekly said Khalid allegedly took Abdul when it appeared the father was going to get full custody of the child. Khalid is facing several charges, including conspiracy to kidnap, forgery, identity theft, and trespassing. 42-year-old Bourgeois is facing 14 charges, including kidnapping, forgery, identity theft, providing false information to authorities, and trespassing. Both children were taken into protective custody. Authorities would not comment on the identity of the second child. We're overwhelmed with joy that Aziz has finally been found, Abdul's family said in a statement released by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. We want to thank everyone for their support over the last 7 years. Now, as we navigate the next steps, we ask for privacy so that we can move forward as a family and heal together. That is phenomenal news. It's good when justice is served. It's even better when a missing child is found, even after 7 years. Yes, we cover a lot of, and we in the true crime community have covered many a missing persons case, and we've been on both ends of the spectrum. We've seen cases where the child is found just like that. We've had cases where the child has been found within a year, maybe 2. We've had cases where, like this one, where the child has been found after 7 years. Then sadly, we've had cases where the child was never found at all. Or even if they were found deceased. So what we want to do is take each case as it comes, and we take it with prayer that the children are found. We pray that all the missing are found, and with the hope that they come back safe and sound. Which is why I say with every case that comes, call 911 immediately. Call the FBI's toll-free tip line if needed. Call the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Call your local law enforcement. No matter what you have to do, call somebody if you have any kind of information to help bring these people back home. And I said it in the beginning when I first started it. I stick with it today, and I will keep on sticking with it until I can no longer do this podcast. If you see something, please say something. That way, somebody can do something. Next up, a Princeton man is accused of murdering his brother. He consents to detention. Matthew Hurtgen facing multiple charges, including first-degree murder, for the death of his younger brother. Former college soccer player back in court on charges he brutally murdered his younger brother and the family cat. 31-year-old Matthew Hurtgen Hurtgen, is facing multiple charges, including first-degree murder for the death of 26-year-old Joseph Hurtgen. According to court documents, Matthew called 911 on February 22nd to report a fire and dead body in the family's Princeton Township apartment. During the proceedings, Matthew spoke softly in court when his attorney and the judge asked if he consented to detention and waived his right to a bond hearing. The parties are due back in court on March 24th. The probable cause affidavit alleges that Matthew stabbed Joseph and beat him to death with a golf club. Officers also noted the family's cat appeared to have been beaten and set on fire. While taking Matthew into custody, officers observed abrasions and scratches on his hands, to which Matthew allegedly advised that he went into a fit of madness. Court documents detail that during an investigation, another brother told officers that Matthew has suffered from severe mental illness for the past 5 years. On the day of Joseph's murder, the brother said Matthew was experiencing terrifying visions, and he spent most of the evening with him to help him. The brother told officers that he dropped Matthew off at the family's apartment around 10 p.m. Matthew placed a 911 call at 11:16 p.m. Matthew and Joseph were each standout athletes during their academic careers. Joseph played soccer for the University of Michigan, and Matthew played soccer at Wesleyan University, according to the University of Michigan. I guess we're gonna have to wait and see what's gonna happen next in this particular case. Charges have been filed after the bodies of Kansas City Chiefs fans were found in a friend's yard. 2 men are charged with involuntary manslaughter and drug charges after 3 people were found dead in the backyard of their friend's home. Jordan Willis and Ivory Carlson, both 42, both faced three counts of involuntary manslaughter and 2 counts of delivery of a controlled substance, according to court documents. A witness told police they went to a house in the 5200 block of Northwest 83rd Terrace on January 9th to look for Clayton McGeaney, age 36. The witnesses say they saw McGeaney's pickup in front of the house. When no one came to the front door, the witness told police they entered the home through a basement window. The witness found the body on the back patio and called police. Court documents state the bodies of McGeaney, 37-year-old David Harrington, and 38-year-old Ricky Johnson were found in the backyard. Platte County Prosecutor Eric Zond said at a conference that the temperature dropped below freezing outside the night of January 7. Detectives obtained search warrant and entered the house. According to the court document, they found a plastic bag containing a white powdery substance in the top drawer of a table and a small plastic bag containing white residue at the top of an entertainment center in the living room. Willis told police that McGeaney, Harrington, and Johnson came over to his house on January 7th to watch the Chiefs-Dolphins game. He also said they were all drinking and smoking marijuana, per the court document. Willis told police he thought the men got fentanyl at some point that day too. The Kansas City Regional Crime Lab tested the powdery substances found in plastic bags in the house. The test revealed one bag contained cocaine and the other contained fentanyl. Willis's DNA was found on the bag that contained cocaine, and Carson's DNA was found on the bag with fentanyl inside. Autopsies of the three men revealed they died of fentanyl and cocaine combined toxicity, according to the court document. Another witness told police the three men, along with the witness, were at Harrington's house earlier on January 7th, where there was a large plate of cocaine supplied by Willis. Police found out the three men went to Willis's house to watch the game, drink alcohol, smoke marijuana, and use cocaine. Carson admitted to police he sold cocaine by the gram to Johnson, Willis, Harrington, and McGinney before January 1st, 2024. Prosecutor Zahn and said Carson is in custody and Willis plans to turn himself in soon. So we haven't got all the information with this yet, but when we do, you'll get it here. Next up, there are lawsuits accusing Pastor John Paul Miller of sexually assaulting minors. Two lawsuits accuse the pastor of sexually abusing young girls through his family's church and school in the late 1990s. Pastor John Paul Miller was thrust in the public spotlight after his then estranged wife, Micah Miller, died by suicide last spring. At the time, Micah's family alleged that John Paul had abused and drugged her before her death. No charges were ever filed in the case following an investigation. Now, two women have come forward alleging that John Paul sexually assaulted them years before, while he was working as a teacher and a pastor at the church his father founded. The newest lawsuit was filed by a woman who wants to remain anonymous, filing as Jane Doe, who says John Paul attacked her in 1999 while she was a student at Cathedral Hall Academy. The school, which was founded by John Paul's father, Reginald Wayne Miller, was connected to the family's church and entirely run by the two men. Plaintiff walked into a nightmare. Cathedral Hall Academy was not a school. It was a trap, Jane Doe wrote in her lawsuit. What should have been a place of learning became a place of control, fear, and unchecked abuse. The plaintiff said she was left alone with John Paul, who invited her to play the piano. When she turned to leave, John Paul allegedly gave her a hug and moved his hands down her back past her waist and under her clothing, touching her bare butt. Another lawsuit filed in February alleges John Paul of two assaults on the same victim. The woman, who has chosen to remain anonymous, alleged that the pastor raped her on July 19, 1998. The plaintiff said she went to a church service with her grandparents where John Paul forced her out of the building and into his truck where he assaulted her. Nearly 20 years later, the same woman was in Myrtle Beach with a friend when she saw John Paul. The lawsuit claims that he leaned in as if to give her a hug and then shoved his hand down her pants, touching her genitals without her consent. According to the lawsuit, the incident in 2023 triggered the repressed memory of the first assault in the victim's mind. The lawsuits are supported by an affidavit submitted to the court as part of a custody case by John Paul's ex-wife, Allison Williams. Williams was married to John Paul for 16 years before their 2016 divorce. Said that her ex-husband admitted to having an affair with the couple's former nanny, Micah, and had also employed prostitutes and had been sexually inappropriate with several underage female members of our church. John Paul has not been criminally charged for any of the allegations of sexual misconduct. He was arrested in November 2024 for a single charge of third-degree assault and battery after an alleged confrontation near his church. And a PSA, and as for a PSA, if you need to talk to someone, you were asked to call the Suicide and Crisis Helpline. and they're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in more than 170 languages. So you're asked to call or text the Suicide and Crisis text line, and that number is 988. 988. It's okay not to be okay, but please don't do anything drastic before you either make the call or text 988. Next up, Jennifer Crumbley's attorney wants the prosecutor removed from the case. Ooh, ain't that something? She wants the prosecutor removed from the case. They cited secret agreements and a smear campaign as reasons why the prosecutor should be removed. Yeah, okay. Attorney Michael Desi filed a motion in Oakland County Court saying in the motion that McDonald cannot be trusted to prosecute this case consistent with the constitutional, legal, and ethical duties imposed upon her office. Desi filed 2 secret agreements called proffer agreements and said the prosecutor's office hired 2 public relations firms for a smear campaign against the Crumbleys. Earlier this year, Jennifer was back in court fighting to get a new trial, with Desi arguing the proffer agreements were not properly disclosed. A proffer agreement is a legally binding contract between a defendant or witness and a federal prosecutor. In this case, it would allow the witness to provide information on the stand with the agreement that the government won't use it against them in court. Jennifer was convicted on 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter connected to the deadly Oxford High School shooting in November 2021. Her son was the shooter who killed 4 students: Hannah St. Juliana, Justin Schilling, Tate Meyer, and Madison Baldwin. Her husband, James, was convicted on the same charges. The 2 proffer agreements Desi referred to were ones the prosecution made in 2024 with Oxford High School counselor Sean Hopkins and former Dean of Students Nicholas Ejak. The prosecution did not tell the defense about the agreements during the 2024 trial, which Desi argues is a violation of the discovery rule. The discovery rule requires that upon request, the prosecuting attorney provide any plea agreement, grant of immunity, or other agreement for testimony in connection with the case. During the hearing in January, the prosecution argued against Desi's claims, saying there was no discovery violation. The witnesses were not required to testify and immunity was not guaranteed. Oakland County Prosecutor Karen McDonald said that Desi's allegations are disrespectful to her team, the court system, and the victims of the shooting. Quote, "The suggestion that Jennifer Crumbley was convicted based on strategic media campaign is preposterous. Let's talk about the facts," said McDonald. "We tried our hardest to offer transparency and give access to local media and national media outlets. There was no behind-the-scenes social influencers. We don't need to do that, and we wouldn't do that." Steve St. Juliana, Hannah's father, also spoke about Desi's allegations against the prosecutor's office. "Stop trying to make her the victim. My daughter is the one who was murdered because of her negligence. Her, I mean by Jennifer Crumbley," said St. Juliana. And I have to agree. I totally have to agree with that. If you're really going to if you're going to go that route, all the evidence that has been compiled, it should be on it should be all on Jennifer Crumbley's defense team to prove wrong. Not to prove that the prosecution is doing anything wrong to try the case. And again, it sounds to me like Jennifer Crumbly, again, is trying to do everything she can to avoid taking responsibility for what her son did. Next up, the judge will stay free even though the murder sentence stands. Adnan Syed will stay free even though the murder sentence stands. This case was amassed a worldwide following of serial podcast listeners. So now we're going to find out what happened with that case. The judge agreed to reduce Syed's sentence to time served under a relatively new state law that provides a pathway to release for people convicted of crimes committed when they were minors. This sentence will be followed by a period of 5 years of supervised probation, Judge Jennifer Schiffer wrote in her decision, adding that Syed is not a danger to the public and that the interests of justice will be better served by a reduced sentence. The judge's ruling followed a hearing last week that included emotional testimony from Syed and relatives of the victim, Hai Min Lee, who was strangled and buried in a shallow grave in 1999. Both prosecutors and defense attorneys told Schiffer that Syed, now 43, doesn't pose a risk to public safety. Lee's brother and mother urged the judge to uphold his life sentence. Syed, who has maintained his innocence, was released from prison in 2022 after Baltimore prosecutors uncovered problems with the case and moved to vacate his conviction, which was later reinstated on appeal. Since his release, he has been working at Georgetown University's Prisons and Justice Initiative and caring for aging family members. Schiffer's decision to allow Syed's continued freedom marks a somewhat anticlimactic milestone for the case, which has received extensive media coverage and multiple court challenges over the years. At trial, prosecutors painted Syed as Lee's jealous boyfriend and built their case around a key witness whose credibility has been heavily questioned. But all these years later, arguments about whether to reduce Syed's sentence notably sidestepped the issue of guilt or innocence. The current Baltimore State's attorney, Ivan Bates, who publicly raised doubts about the integrity of the conviction before the city's top prosecutor, said that his office believes in the jury's verdict and has no plans to continue investigating the case. His predecessor, Marilyn Mosby, tried to get the conviction thrown out in 2022. It is now upon the defense if they have new information to bring to us, Bates said at a news conference following the hearing. Those questions aside, recent court testimony reviewed the lasting impacts of Lee's gruesome death and Syed's 23-year incarceration. Lee's family and their attorneys said old wounds were ripped open when Syed's conviction was vacated. The family later succeeded in getting the conviction reinstated after challenging the ruling on procedural grounds, arguing they didn't receive proper notice to attend the hearing that freed Syed from prison, where they participated only through a video connection. Hours before the hearing, Bates withdrew Mosby's earlier motion to vacate the conviction, even as he supported a reduced sentence. And while the judge acknowledged Syed's accomplishments, in her remarks to the court, she focused on what the Lee family has endured, including witnessing Syed's rise to celebrity following the release of Serial in 2014 and a television documentary about the case. I hope that everyone understands that Hai Min Lee and her family are the true victims in this case, she said. Their suffering cannot be overstated. Lee's brother, Young Lee, told the court that losing her destroyed his family. Instead of growing up with an older sister to guide him through adolescence, Young Lee said he would sometimes have imaginary conversations with her. When this thing is finally over, he said through tears, he plans to visit the spot where her ashes were laid and talk to her about how short life impacted people and how famous she became. Other testimony came from character witnesses who described Saeed as having an even temper, strong communication skills, loving relationships, and an impressive ability to remain hopeful during his long prison term. If there's anything good you see in me as a human being, it's because of his influence, his younger brother Yusef, Saeed said, who recently completed medical school and applied for a residency. Saeed took classes in prison through a Georgetown University program and was hired by the school after his release. Mark Howard, director of its Prisons and Justice Initiative, says he's become an invaluable member of our team. Saeed, for his part, choked up while addressing the pain that his defense and the media attention have caused Lee's family. He told the judge he's trying to keep his head down and contribute positively to society. I can promise to you and everyone here, including High's family, that I will continue to live the life that I have been trying to live, he said. Well, all I can say is good luck to Adnan Syed. Best wishes to Hyman Lee's family, and I hope and pray that everything turns out for the best for all sides. Next up, a man is. This one's for the Justice Serve file too, mind you. A man has been convicted of decapitating a victim and playing soccer with his head in a New Mexico park. After decapitating 31-year-old James Garcia in a Las Cruces park, Joel Arciniega Sáenz, age 28, kicked his severed head at 14 different cars, according to an affidavit. This is the defendant, Joel Arciniega Sáenz. A New Mexico man who decapitated a 51-year-old victim and played soccer with his head has been found guilty of murder. 28-year-old Joel Arciniega Sáenz of Las Cruces was convicted of first-degree murder on Wednesday, March 5th for the grisly slaying of James Garcia on June 20th, 2021. Doña Ana County District Attorney Fernando Macias announced. Joel, because I'm only going by the defendant's first name because tough trying to pronounce his last. Joel, who was homeless at the time of the crime, carried out a horrific attack on the victim, stabbing Garcia 84 times with a small switchblade, Macias said in a statement. The attacker decapitated Garcia and severed his finger, said Macias. After that, Joel proceeded to play soccer with the victim's head in Apodaca Park in Las Cruces. Joel said he kicked the victim's head at 14 different cars in the park, according to a PCA obtained by local station KTSM. PCA probable cause affidavit. It's a great day for justice, Chief Deputy District Attorney Spencer Wilson said in a statement. Our office remains committed to working diligently to make our streets safer, one case at a time. On the night of the attack, an officer found Garcia's body in the middle of a road on the north side of the park, about 10 yards from his head, according to the affidavit. Joel told detectives that he, his wife, and Garcia were hanging out at the park where he said he slept 4 days before the murder. On the day of the murder, he said he and his wife fell asleep, and when they woke up, they discovered that all their belongings had been stolen. They believed Garcia to be responsible. Upset, Joel found Garcia and confronted him, admitting to police that he took a switchblade knife from Garcia and stabbed him several times with it before decapitating him, per the affidavit. After that, he said he dragged Garcia's body into the middle of the street and played soccer with his head. Chief Deputy District Attorney Melissa Garcia thanked police for their perseverance in bringing the case to justice. Although our office prosecuted this case, the real heroes are the Las Cruces Police Department officers, she said in a statement. This was a horrific case that they investigated and stuck with from beginning to end. Macias noted that the verdict came after a lengthy legal process marked by challenges surrounding the defendant's competency. He continued, despite lengthy challenges, we remain steadfast in our pursuit of justice for those affected. Joel? You could have confronted him and brought him to justice. Instead, it's you. And with that, looks like you may be spending the rest of your life behind bars, pal. Justice served. Oh. The next story I'm going to put up, I'm going to have to put up the trigger warning because even this made me sick. Alright? If anything you're about to hear now is triggering to your mental health, I ask you right now to go anywhere else instead of staying here, because this next story is that strange, gruesome, ugly. I don't have any more words for it. Woman accused of sexually abusing a Great Dane, and she allegedly gave disturbing answer when confronted by cops. And you see this content warning right here that I'm highlighting right now. Hold on. This article contains disturbing descriptions of alleged sexual abuse of animals. You have been warned. An Oklahoma woman was arrested after authorities alleged she produced and posted videos of herself sexually abusing her dog. 45-year-old Christina Stokes was charged with publishing or disturbing obscene material, animal cruelty, and crimes against nature on February 28th, according to a PCA obtained by People magazine. It's unclear if she has entered a plea, and her public court docket does not list an attorney. Police in Edmond, Oklahoma began investigating Stokes in September 2024 after receiving a report about a 15-minute long video of a woman sexually abusing a brown Great Dane, which was shared on a pornographic website, according to a PCA obtained by People magazine. During the investigation, police claimed they also found a similar video shared on another pornographic website. According to the affidavit, police also noted the woman is seen in the video letting the dog lick her tongue and the inside of her mouth. The woman and the dog also... Oh boy. I'm trying to catch myself here because even this is strange. The woman also engaged in oral relations, according to police, adding that the woman was wearing crotchless pants, a partial face mask, and knee-high pink and white socks, according to the affidavit. She also had a red tattoo, which led authorities to a Facebook profile allegedly belonging to Stokes. Police claim that profile also had pictures of the dog seen in the videos. On February 27, police executed a search warrant for Stokes' home where they claim they found several items seen in the videos. Those items included a blue dog collar, knee-high socks, and similar fuzzy bed sheets, according to the affidavit. Police said Stokes denied making the videos or sexually abusing her dog. But when police asked Stokes again, she paused for 10 seconds and allegedly responded, "I can't say an interest hadn't been there," according to the affidavit. Stokes was subsequently arrested and booked into the Edmond jail. Guys, are you kidding me? Are you absolutely out of your mind just listening to that? I mean, I've in the 4 years, I've been on YouTube in some form or fashion for 4 years. I just found that out today. I've been doing true crime in a few more months. It'll be 3 years. And I have never, and I mean never, heard of anything as strange, as disturbing, as disgusting as what I just read. My God, what is this world coming to? Next up, suspect's text reveal possible motive for the killing of California fire chief. Quote, "I hurt her." 53-year-old Yolanda Marodi is currently wanted by police. This is Yolanda Marodi right here, and this was her wife, Becky Marodi, the police chief in this article. A woman suspected of stabbing her wife to death and taking off with their pets is believed to have fled to Mexico. And text she said before she left might reveal the motive for the alleged murder of California Fire Captain Becky Marodi. "Becky came home and told me she was leaving me," Yolanda Marodi allegedly wrote to an acquaintance one day after her wife's death. According to an arrest warrant reviewed by People magazine, she met someone else. All the messages were lies. "We had a big fight, and I hurt her. I'm sorry." Yolanda, also known as Yolanda Oljanizak, age 53, is currently wanted by police. She has brown hair, stands about 5 feet 2 inches, and weighs approximately 166 pounds. 49-year-old Rebecca Marody of Captain with the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection was found with multiple stab wounds to the neck, chest, and abdomen at her home in Ramona, California on February 17th, according to the San Diego County Sheriff's Office. Days later, authorities named Rebecca's wife as the suspect. Yolanda's location is currently unknown. In the arrest warrant, police claim that home security footage shows Yolanda chasing Rebecca across the patio shortly before 8 p.m. on the night of the murder. Yolanda was allegedly holding a knife at the time. "Yolanda, please, I don't want to die," a voice believed to be Rebecca's was heard saying, according to police. Blood appeared to be running down her back, according to the warrant. "You should have thought about that before," Yolanda, who allegedly had blood on her arms, responded. Again, that's according to the warrant. Rebecca was then allegedly seen on camera begging Yolanda to call 911 multiple times as her wife told her to go back inside. Police allege that minutes later, Yolanda could be seen on camera loading pets and luggage into an SUV before leaving the home, wearing different clothing. Police believe Yolanda subsequently left the country as her SUV was spotted hours later crossing the Mexican border. She reportedly fled in a 2013 silver Chevrolet Equinox with a California license plate 8BQJ420. Again, that's California license plate number 8BQJ420. Lieutenant Mike Cruft is the sheriff's office previously told people that Yolanda once served time in prison for manslaughter in connection with the death of her then husband, James J. Oljanizak Jr. Rebecca worked with Cal Fire for more than 30 years after beginning her firefighting career as a volunteer in 1993. She was promoted to captain in 2022. Police urge anyone who sees Yolanda to call them immediately. Anonymous tips can be submitted through Crime Stoppers at 888-580-8477. 888-580-8477. And as far as a PSA goes, it looks like I'm loaded with them this week. Let's see. Let me get my good one. Oh yes, the National Domestic Violence. If you don't have to be a statistic, but if you are experiencing domestic violence, get help now. Call the National Domestic Violence Hotline. That number is 1-800-799-7233. 1-800-799-SAFE. Or go to thehotline.org. All calls are toll-free and confidential. The hotline is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in more than 170 languages. So help is available. Once again, that number is 1-800-799-SAFE. 1-800-799-7233. Okay. The investigation into Gene Hackman's death. The doctor who autopsied both Gene and Betsy Hackman announced that the actor likely died on February 18th. His wife likely died the week prior. Authorities revealed on Friday, last Friday, this past Friday I should say, that actor Gene Hackman died of heart disease and showed severe signs of Alzheimer's disease a full week after his wife died of hantavirus in their home. Authorities initially ruled out foul play after the bodies were discovered February 26th. Immediate tests for carbon monoxide poisoning were negative. Chief Medical Investigator Dr. Heather Jarrell said it was possible that Hackman was not aware his wife was deceased in their home. Mr. Hackman showed evidence of advanced Alzheimer's disease, Jarrell said, and he was in a very poor state of health. He had significant heart disease, and I think ultimately that's what resulted in his death. 95-year-old Hackman was found in the home's entryway. His death was tied to heart disease, with Alzheimer's disease contributing. 65-year-old Betsy Arakawa was found with an open prescription bottle and pills scattered on the bathroom counter. Authorities linked her death to hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, a rare but potentially fatal disease spread by infected rodent droppings. It is typically reported in spring and summer, often due to exposures that occur when people are near mouse droppings in homes, sheds, or poorly ventilated areas. Jarrell said it is not known how quickly Arakawa died. Santa Fe County Sheriff Aidan Mendoza made the announcement alongside state fire and health officials at a news conference. Investigators earlier retrieved personal items from the couple's home, including a monthly planner and 2 cell phones. I really don't know what else to say to that. In an update to a case, in an update to the Brian Kohlberger case that I brought about earlier this evening. There you go. New Kohlberger files showed text and a 911 transcript. Someone saying, "I'm freaking out right now." Newly revealed court documents show that the state of Idaho has filed 2 motions seeking to include text messages, testimony, and a 911 call as evidence in Brian Kohlberger's trial. One of the documents, filed by the prosecution on February 24th, shows text messages between 2 of the surviving roommates who were home at the time of the attack. Their names have been redacted. The 2 exchanged more than a dozen texts between 4:22 and 4:24 a.m. on November 13th, 2022, with one saying, "I'm not kidding. I am so freaked out," to which the other replied, "Come to my room. Run." The 2 also texted about someone in a ski mask during the exchange. The prosecution argues that the texts are not hearsay because they can help establish a timeline of events. In another document, the state is seeking to admit the recording and transcript from the 911 call that first alerted authorities to the situation after Xana Kernodle was found unresponsive. The state argues that the call also falls under exceptions to hearsay rules and will provide the jury with an important understanding of the timeline and the immediate reactions and emotions of the witnesses. Judge John Judge, who was overseeing the trial before it was moved to Ada County, had previously ruled that the 911 call was relevant because it helped show why law enforcement was sent to 1122 King Road on November 13th, 2022, as opposed to just EMS when the call was for an unconscious individual. Kohlberger is accused of murdering 4 University of Idaho students in 2022, including Xana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin, Madison Mogan, and Gailey Gonsalves. His trial is set to start this August. Next, 15-year-old Reed Galinsky is charged with first-degree intentional homicide in the death of his mother. Prosecutors say he also planned to kill his dad, and he was inspired by their series on the Menendez brothers. A Wisconsin teenager is being charged as an adult in the stabbing of his mother, and prosecutors say he was inspired by a recent documentary about the Menendez brothers. Reed Galinsky is charged with first-degree intentional homicide in the death of his mother. Prosecutors claim he also planned to kill his father. Galinsky made his first court appearance Thursday afternoon over Zoom, where the court commissioners set a $1 million cash bond. His mother was identified as Suzanne Galinsky and was confirmed by Racine Unified School District to be a 4K educational assistant. The gruesome discovery was made after officers were dispatched on March 4th for a report of a juvenile who stabbed his mother to death. A caller told dispatch she had received a Snapchat photo showing a woman, later identified as Suzanne, lying face up on her back, and another image with blood on the floor, according to a criminal complaint filed on Thursday. Reed allegedly told the caller he needed help and had stabbed her mother. That night, according to the complaint, Reed watched the Menendez brothers documentary on Netflix after dinner. He said his inspiration for the stabbing came to him while he watched the shotgun scene. He then allegedly concocted a plan to kill his mother, hiding his sleep medication after she went upstairs in an effort to lure her back down to look for it. When she came downstairs, the complaint said he struck her over the head twice with a dumbbell in an attempt to knock her out so he could stab her with a kitchen knife. Reed allegedly threw her to the ground and stabbed her 3 times in the chest and twice in the neck, despite her attempts to fight him off. According to the complaint, the mother asked him why, and he replied, pain. After the attack, Reed told investigators he contacted a friend on Snapchat, told her to call the police, and sat on the floor until he heard sirens. When officers arrived, they saw Reed exiting the house. As they approached, he dropped a brown and silver kitchen knife at the front stoop, saying, "She is dead. She is dead from what I did," and telling officers to kill him. Inside the home, officers found Suzanne near the front of the house with apparent stab wounds, blood-soaked clothing. They attempted life-saving measures, but she could not be revived. Officers recovered a kitchen knife dropped by Reed with blood on the blade and handle. Another kitchen knife was found near the kitchen sink with a drop of blood on the handle and blade, along with a silver adjustable dumbbell bar near a cabinet by the refrigerator. The complaint states Reed also had plans to kill his father with a hammer when he came home from work, but could not find one large enough. According to the complaint, the teen came home from school that day feeling depressed and having an urge to kill his parents. He also told investigators he had been taking his brother's anxiety medication for about a month, saying the medication does not help his anxiety, but it makes him high and he enjoys that. Dang. And what could have brought all that on is beyond me. And finally, this is pretty much ongoing right now. The son of the man murdered by Bud Ackerman Jr. is appearing on American Idol tonight, if you haven't seen it already. Freddie McClendon, the son of the man killed by a jealous ex-husband, will appear on American Idol according to the ABC show season premiere trailer. Freddie McClendon is the son of Kenneth Davis McClendon, who William Bud Ackerman Jr. killed in May 2023. After my dad passed, I had a lot of frustration about how all the people would talk about is his death. Freddie told American Idol. And so I wrote an entire album called Present Memories that told the story of his life. In the trailer, Freddie shares some of his heartbreaking story, saying he was our dad and he meant the world to us. Kenneth began dating Ackerman's soon-to-be ex-wife approximately 6 months after Ackerman's relationship with her had ended. The estranged couple were 4 weeks away from finalizing their divorce when Ackerman intentionally drove his Ford F-250 into Kenneth's BMW. Kenneth died at the scene. Ackerman was sentenced to serve 45 years in a state penitentiary after a jury convicted him of murder. During victim impact statements, Freddie expressed anger at the lack of remorse that the Ackerman family showed during the trial. In handing down the sentence, Judge Donald Hawker noted the strength of the video evidence showing the intentional nature of the act. American Idol will premiere tonight, March 9th on ABC, and Freddie will share his story and music inspired by his father's life. Since I'm doing this podcast, I'm unable to see that episode of American Idol unless I catch the a replay of it. I hope though that 1, he makes it through to Hollywood. 2, I hope he makes it through to the live shows, and personally 3, I hope he actually wins the thing. I really, really, truly hope he wins the whole thing. And that's going to do it for me for this edition of Bethea'S Byte Reloaded. Guys, again, this edition of the Byte will be linked in my community page. So if you wanna drop comments on Casey Anthony, Brian Kohlberger, whatever, you can drop it right there and then. I will be more than happy to respond to you. And if you want, and I also thinking about it, I also plan to drop it also all over my social media. So if you're looking for your boy on Facebook, I'll be there at Bethea'S Byte Reloaded. I'll be on X at EKB316. That's in all caps. As I said, I'm gonna link this thing to YouTube, especially on my community page. That's at Bethea'S Byte Reloaded. I'll be on I'll link it to Instagram as well, at EKB316. That's all lowercase. On TikTok, yeah, I'll do that too. That's at King of Hearts 316 2021. And you can also email me about any and everything you saw. The address is kingofhearts316_09 at outlook.com. If you liked everything you saw today, I ask you humbly, to drop me a like, share, subscribe to the channel. Drop me a comment in the comment section as well. That's the free way to support the channel. If you like to help support me and keep this thing running, I'm only using PayPal and I'm only using Cash App. You can drop me a little something there. Nothing is obligated, but it's always appreciated. All right, let's go ahead and wind this thing up. This is your home for true crime news without the drama, where your opinions matter, where lively debates are encouraged, your voice is heard, and above all else, justice is served. No ifs, ands, or buts about that, and I guarantee you, no gimmicks, no drama, no BS. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Bethea'S Byte, and as always, it's reloaded. I'm Ernest Bethea, the last outlaw. I want to thank you all so much for joining me, and I can't wait to hear from you all over my social media pages regarding Casey Anthony and so much more. Let's do this again next time, same place, all right? Until then, you all know what to do from here. Byte.
Thanks for watching and joining me here at the drama-free true crime destination. Be sure to like, share, subscribe to the channel, and drop me a comment on this video. Also, be sure to follow Bethea'S Byte Reloaded all over social media. This is Bethea'S Byte, and it's reloaded.